Good morning, dear students. I am Dr. Shabnamara Begum from Department of Pharmacology. Today our topic of discussion is aminoglycoside antibiotic. After completion of this lecture, we will be able to know about aminoglycoside structures, sources, common properties, their classifications, mechanism of actions, mechanism of resistance, adverse drug reaction, precaution, some important drug interactions, pharmacokinetics, drug dosing, their therapeutic uses, and some MCQs on aminoglycoside. Unlike penicillin, which was a chance discovery, aminoglycosides are products of deliberate search for drug effective against gram-negative bacteria. And streptomycin was the first member discovered in 1944 by Waxman and his colleague. Others were produced or they are discovered later, and now aminoglycoside are a sizable family. They are natural and semi-synthetic antibiotic, and they have polybasic amino group linked glycosidically to two or more amino sugar. All aminoglycosides are produced by soil actinomycetes. Those obtained from streptomyces have suffix mycin, MYCIN at the end, and those obtained from micromonospora have suffix MICIN. So, streptomycin, neomycin, paromomycin, tobramycin, they are obtained from streptomyces, and they have suffix mycin. And on the other hand, gentamicin, nettlemycin, amikacin, they are obtained from micromonospora, so they have suffix MICIN. Now, some common properties of aminoglycoside. They are polar, they are water soluble, but and more active at alkaline pH, and they are very ionized, so they can't be given orally. There was no GI absorption. They have poor CSF penetration, and they are distributed only extracellularly. Their safety margins are very low, and therapeutic drug monitoring may require. They are excreted unchanged in urine by glomerular filtrations. They are active against aerobic gram-negative bacilli, and they are resistant to anaerobes. They are acting by, or their mechanism of actions are by inhibiting protein synthesis of bacteria, and though their mechanism are inhibiting protein synthesis, they are bactericidal, and they exhibit ototoxicity, nephrotoxicity. Now, mechanism of actions of aminoglycoside. They are polar substance. So, initially they penetrate the bacterial cell wall by diffusion to reach the periplasmic space through poring channel by passive diffusion, and then further transport across cytoplasmic membrane take place by active transport by oxygen dependent process. And it is actually a picture showing the bacterial protein synthesis. We know that messenger or mRNA attaches to the 30S ribosome. Then the initiation complex of mRNA start protein synthesis and polysome formations occur. The nascent peptide chain is attached to the peptidyl or P site of the 50S ribosome. The next amino acid is transported to the acceptor site or A site of the ribosome by its specific tRNA, which is complementary to the base sequence of the next mRNA codon. And the nascent peptide chain is transferred to the newly attached amino acid by peptide bond formation. Next, the elongated peptide chain is shifted back from A site to P site, and the ribosome moves along the mRNA to expose the next codon for amino acid attachment. And finally, the process is terminated by termination complex, and the protein is released. Aminoglycoside, they actually bind to several sites at 30S and 50A subunit as well as to their interface. They freeze initiation, they interfere with polysome formation, they cause misreading of mRNA code, Actually, they prematurely terminate protein synthesis, and wrong amino acid is incorporated, and they have special actions like they have cidal action. Though their mechanism of action is by inhibiting protein synthesis, they have cidal action, and the cidal action is due to secondary changes in the permeability of the bacterial cell membrane. After exposure to aminoglycoside, sensitive bacteria become more permeable. Iron, amino acid, even protein leak out, followed by cell death. This probably result from incorporation of the defective protein into the cell membrane. There are two more special actions like dose dependent killing. Like higher the concentration, greater is the bactericidal effect of aminoglycoside, and they have post antibiotic effect, that their effect remain even after serum concentration has fallen below minimum inhibitory concentration. So though their T half is only 2 to 3 hours, but their actions may prolong for a day. So once daily dosing are given normally. The single daily dose are preferred in patient with normal renal function because it has concentration dependent killing and long post antibiotic effect, and the plasma concentration remain subthreshold for ototoxicity and nephrotoxicity. But the single dose daily dose is not recommended in case of abnormal renal function, neonate, children, and if combination therapy with beta-lactam group of drug is given in endocarditis. Now pharmacokinetics of aminoglycoside. They are highly ionized, so they are not absorbed, they are destroyed by GI tract. So IM route or a parenteral route are preferred route, and their peak plasma concentrations occur after IM route 30 to 60 minutes. They are distributed extracellularly. They have high concentration in endolymph and renal cortex. They do not cross blood-brain barrier but may cross placenta. They get distributed in serous fluid like synovial, pleural, peritoneal space, etc. They are excreted unchanged in urine. Main channel of excretion is glomerular filtrations. Plasma T half is very low or minimum, that is 2 to 4 hours. But after chronic dosing, 2 to 3 weeks, the drug may persist in urine for 2 to 3 weeks. In elderly people and neonate, the drug dosing should be low as they have low glomerular filtration rate. Renal clearance of aminoglycoside parallel creatinine. So, and creatinine clearance of 70 ml per minute indicate no reduction of daily dose of aminoglycoside. So, in case of aminoglycoside administration, creatinine clearance should be calculated. Daily dose of aminoglycoside must be precisely calculated as I have mentioned according to their body weight and level of renal function. For an average adult with normal renal function, I have already mentioned the usual dose for gentamicin, netilmicin, tobramycin are 3 to 5 mg per kg per day, and for streptomycin, kanamycin, amikacin, this is 7.5 mg to 115 mg per kg per day. And there was one guideline for dose adjustment of gentamicin in renal insufficiency. If creatinine clearance is 20 to 30, the 80% of daily dose are given in alternate day. That means after 48 hours. And if the creatinine clearance is less than 10, 40% of daily dose are given alternate day, not daily. Resistance to aminoglycoside is acquired by aminoglycoside inactivating enzyme. On binding to aminoglycoside, the enzyme inactivate aminoglycoside which fail to bind to the target ribosome. Also, low affinity of ribosome acquired by mutation and decrease in permeability to antibiotic. There is partial cross resistance among various aminoglycosides. Aminoglycosides have a narrow spectrum and are mainly effective against aerobic gram-negative bacilli like Proteus, Pseudomonas, E. coli, Enterobacter, Klebsiella, Shigella, etc. and only few gram-positive cocci like Staph aureus, Streptococcus viridans but they are not effective against gram-positive bacilli, gram-negative cocci and anaerobe. The adverse effects are mainly ototoxicity, nephrotoxicity, neuromuscular blockade, hypersensitivity reactions. Ototoxicity is the most important toxicity. Both vestibular and auditory dysfunctions can occur depending on the dose and duration. Aminoglycoside concentrated in labyrinthine fluid and they released from there when plasma concentration decreases. They damage both cochlear hair cell and vestibular sensory cell. The vestibular toxicity or dysfunctions presented with vertigo, ataxia, nystagmus, headache, and they recover slowly. And for cochlear toxicity, they present with tinnitus, and that is reversible, followed by hearing loss, which may be permanent. Nephrotoxicity, they are more damaging to the cortical nephron, and they cause damage to the renal tubule. This result in loss of urine concentrating capacity, low GFR and albuminuria. But these effects are reversible. Gentamicin, neomycin, tobramycin are most nephrotoxic. Neuromuscular blockade, aminoglycoside have mainly neomycin and streptomycin. They reduce acetylcholine release from motor ending. But this neuromuscular blockade activity is not significant in otherwise normal cases in routine, but dangerous in myasthenia gravis patient, and if direct administration of aminoglycoside into pleural or peritoneal cavity, and if patient received cure like muscle relaxation during surgical procedure. This is the comparative toxicity list of aminoglycoside. Streptomycin and gentamicin are much more vestibular toxic. Tobramycin are both cochlear and vestibular toxic. Netilmycin are they are more safer in case of toxicity, but neomycin, framicetin, kanamycin, amikacin, they are cochlear toxic and nephrotoxic. Now, some precautions and drug interactions. Because they are nephrotoxic and ototoxic, so concurrent use of nephrotoxic and ototoxic drug are avoided. Nephrotoxic drugs like NSAID, amphotericin B, cyclosporin, cisplatin, and ototoxic drugs like furosemide, vancomycin, and minocycline should be cautiously used along with aminoglycoside and better avoided. They have low safety margin, so therapeutic drug monitoring may be required. They are contraindicated in pregnancy because chance of fetal deafness, and they do not mixed with any drug in same syringe or infusion bottle. In the classification of aminoglycosides, systemic aminoglycosides are streptomycin, gentamicin, kanamycin, tobramycin, amikacin, sisomycin, netilmycin, paromomycin, arbicacin. Among them, amikacin, netilmycin and arbicacins are semisynthetic product, other are natural product. And among topical aminoglycoside, neomycin and famicetins are used. Next, some important pharmacological property of some individual aminoglycoside. Streptomycin, it has narrow spectrum of activity. They are mainly used in tuberculosis, both mycobacterium and atypical and typical mycobacterium tuberculosis, but resistance develop fast, so never use streptomycin alone in tuberculosis. They are also used in bacterial endocarditis, and in case of plague, toluidemia and brucellosis, they are drug of choice other than tetracycline. Gentamicin, they are obtained from Micromonospora purpurea. They are more potent and has a broader spectrum of actions compared to streptomycin, but they are not effective in tuberculosis. They have limited use, but they are used in combination with penicillin, cephalosporin or fluoroquinolones, but their use is limited because they have more nephrotoxicity and vestibular toxicity. They are used in bacterial endocarditis. And next, kanamycin, they are highly ototoxic and highly nephrotoxic. so rarely used now. They are used as second line antitubercular drug. Tobramycin, they are more active against Pseudomonas, and they are used better activity because they have better activity with Pseudomonas. They are used with anti-pseudomonal penicillin in such infection, and it can be used in place of gentamicin. Amikacin, it is a semi-synthetic derivative of kanamycin group. It has widest antibacterial spectrum among the aminoglycoside because it is resistant to aminoglycoside inactivating enzymes. They are used in nosocomial infection due to gram-negative organism. They are used in tuberculosis as second line drug or multi-drug resistant tuberculosis in combination with other drug. It is also used in case of atypical mycobacteria in patient with AIDS, but chance of hearing loss are more with amikacin. Framicetin are too toxic for systemic use, so they are used topically as ointment, cream, eye drop, etc. Neomycin, it has wide antibacterial spectrum, effective against gram-positive, gram-negative bacteria, but it is highly ototoxic, not given systematically. They are used topically as ointment, cream, powder, and also used orally for action in the gut. They also neomycin and polymyxin B solution is used as irritant in urinary bladder to prevent bacteriuria associated with use of indwelling catheter. And though neomycin is not absorbed when given orally, it inhibits growth of intestinal flora and is excreted in the feces. So it is used to prepare the bile for surgery. And in case of hepatic encephalopathy, in severe hepatic failure, the liver is unable to handle ammonia, so blood ammonia level rises, resulting in encephalopathy. As neomycin inhibits intestinal flora, ammonia production falls. Neomycin is given orally for this purpose. However, lactulose is now preferred for this indication. Paromomycin, this is chemically related to neomycin, used against protozoa parasite like cryptosporidiosis, intestinal amoebiosis, used alternative to neomycin in hepatic encephalopathy. They are also used in visceral leishmaniasis. Arbicacin, this is a semi-synthetic aminoglycoside of kanamycin family. They are approved in India in 2017 but not approved in UK and US. They have broad spectrum activity against many gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria, including methicillin resistant Staph aureus, E. coli, Pseudomonas. This is a list where the individual drug with their therapeutic uses and their clinical pharmacology and tips are given. Now some MCQs on aminoglycoside. Which of the following drug is not an aminoglycoside? Streptomycin, neomycin, amikacin, azithromycin. The answer is D, azithromycin. It is a macrolide. Mechanism of action of streptomycin. Freezing of initiation, inhibit translocation, inhibit peptidyl transferase, inhibit cell wall synthesis. The answer is A, freezing of initiation. Enzyme inactivation is the main mode of resistance to aminoglycoside, quinolones, rifamycin, glycopeptides. The answer is A, aminoglycoside. Highly vestibulotoxic drug is cisplatin, streptomycin, dihydrostreptomycin, quinine. The answer is B, streptomycin. Which of the following aminoglycoside cause less ototoxicity than others? Natilmycin, gentamicin, neomycin, streptomycin. Answer is natilmycin. Renal damage is a potential adverse effect of aminoglycoside. In which part of kidney are aminoglycoside retained which causes this effect? Distal tubule, proximal tubule, loop of Henle, glomerulus. The answer is proximal tubule. Which aminoglycoside is most commonly used in treatment of cystic fibrosis patient infected with Pseudomonas aeruginosus? Amikacin, streptomycin, tobramycin, gentamicin. The answer is tobramycin. Which of the following statement about aminoglycoside is false? They have short half-lives, they are bactericidal, They exacerbate weakness in myasthenia gravis patient, none of the above. The answer is none of the above, because they have short half-life, 2 to 3 hours, they are bactericidal, and they exacerbate weakness in myasthenia gravis patient because they have neuromuscular blockade activity. Now take home message. Aminoglycoside are highly water soluble ionized drug, so given by parenteral route. They have narrow spectrum of activity. They are mainly used for aerobic gram-negative bacilli. They have dose-dependent killing activity and long post-antibiotic effect. They have low safety margin, so therapeutic drug monitoring may be required. They have ototoxic and nephrotoxic and some neuromuscular blockade activity. They are given some specific indication like tuberculosis, plague, tularemia, brucellosis as drug of choice or first line drug along other than tetracycline. They are also given in UTI and nosocomial infection along with other drug, and they are given once daily dosing. They have advantages of better efficacy and post antibiotic effect. For once daily injection, plasma trough concentration are measured, which should be less than 1 microgram per ml, and in that case sample is collected after 2 hours and 12 hours following a dose, and dose of aminoglycoside should be reduced in renal impairment. Aminoglycoside should always be combined with another antibiotic for pneumonia, especially nosocomial pneumonia, but not community acquired pneumonia. They are not effective because in that case gram positive cocci are main pathogenic organism, and they are not effective against gram positive organism or anaerobes. And purulent exudation can inactivate gentamicin to some extent because they are not active if there is less oxygen and if in anaerobic condition. So they should be judiciously used in some specific condition, in some reserved conditions with proper monitoring of the concentration. Thank you. Be safe and be blessed.